Ready, steady, go! Welcome to Studio MH Day, live from Berlin. I'm Ina Yoga. I'm the international coordinator for Menstrual Hygiene Day from WASH United, who are also the initiator of the day. I will lead you through today's show, and I'm really looking forward to it. To my right side is Thorsten Kiefer, CEO of WASH United. And to my left is Jule Wernhardt, our communications manager. Thorsten will co-moderate the show with me today, and Jule will provide us with some regular updates and highlights from the social media and also from media, what's happening around the world. This is now the last one of 3 spotlight sessions. This is all about Americas, and if you're calling from Americas or from other countries, a very warm welcome. We really look forward to an exciting program which is jam-packed and extremely diverse, with including conversations with organizations and individuals who drive change and action on menstrual health and hygiene. For example, we have FSG and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We have Global Affairs Canada, CanWatch, and the Period Promise campaign. We talk to Citron Hygiene, Julia Jacks from Brazil, Procter & Gamble, Days for Girls Guatemala, Kimberly Clark, WAX and UNICEF, who present their results from the UNICEF report, U-report, and last but not least to the World Bank. So I hope you really enjoy the next 2 hours. Jule, you will keep us up to speed what is happening online and share some of your highlights. And we really want everyone to be able to participate and add their voices. So can you explain us how they do it?
So as this day is about bringing the community together, even in times of Corona, or especially in times of Corona, COVID-19, I'm sorry, we want you to be part of this live session. So keep on posting, keep on tweeting, keep on sharing your and, of course, our content. Show us what you prepared for today and how you want to add your voice to the movement. And we are looking forward to see much more of the actions you've taken. So our handles, as you maybe know, are MH Day 28 May on Twitter and Menstrual Hygiene Day on Facebook and Instagram. And our hashtags for this year's campaign are It's Time for Action, MH Day 2020, and Periods in Pandemics. Please use them so I can find what you're sharing and posting.
Thanks, Jule. And I hope you already do that, and we provide, as I said, some insight, and also at the end of the show we have some numbers to you. I'm turning to Thorsten. Thorsten, why are we actually here? Why is there a Menstrual Hygiene Day, and why are we standing in Studio MH Day?
We're starting off here with a little bit of background information. Hopefully there are some newbies to MH Day on the call too, and I hope anybody else will still find it interesting. So it was 7 years ago here in Berlin when Ina and I actually had this conversation where we talked about how can you tackle the really thick global stigma and taboo surrounding menstruation around the world. What can you do to break through this crust of taboo and stigma? And we came up with this idea: what if we focus all advocates and all voices on one day, and like a laser beam, can we then burn through this this layer of taboo and stigma? What if there was one day where everybody unified their voices? What if there was a Menstrual Hygiene Day, and the cycle is 28 days on average and 5 days of bleeding, 28 May, Menstrual Hygiene Day, even rhymes. We thought that would be a good idea.
Or a crazy idea.
Or a crazy idea, yeah. But then we shared the idea, we talked to other organizations, and they actually said that, this is actually interesting, why don't you try? And we went running, and partners joined, and that was now 7 years ago, and we're now a partnership of nearing 600 organizations, you just told me, united by one goal: to create a world without period stigma and without period poverty, where no woman and no girl is limited because of her period. We are now a movement for change, and today, Studio MH Day is our attempt to really bring this movement together when COVID-19 is forcing us apart. It's not about elaborate or polished speeches. It's not about anything glamorous. It's about genuine exchanges and conversations. It's about enabling us to share and learn from each other. It's about strengthening our joint resolve to create a world where no one is limited from achieving their full potential and realizing their dreams because they menstruate. Because we firmly believe that it's our generation that for the first time has the privilege that we have the chance to make period poverty and stigma history. We can do that by 2030. It's possible. We, NGOs, governments, corporates, multilaterals, and everyone who's joining as an individual, we can make that happen. Our hope would be that 10 years from now, in 2030 on MH Day, we meet again, and there's nothing much to talk about because period poverty and period stigma are history. So we hope that today will strengthen our courage and resolve to actually make that happen. And this year, to actually boost our ability to advocate for our cause, we introduced a symbol, the menstrual hygiene bracelet. Just like the red ribbon for HIV/AIDS or the rainbow flag for LGBTQ rights, we hope that the symbol of the bracelet will help all of us reach beyond the converted and carry our message into the mainstream of society, because this is where we need to get in the end. Talking in the bubble will only get us so far. We need to reach out to the people who currently stigmatize, who find periods still disgusting, who don't want to talk about it. And for that, we need visual symbols. We need symbols. And we'll need to hear a bit more about from Jule in a minute how that has taken off so far. So what we're doing here today is, for us, for Ina, for Jule, for me, for everyone at WASH United, is like a crazy big experiment because this is the first time we're doing a live show. Yes. This is the first time you're acting like a TV moderator, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the same for me.
Now it's the third.
No, third. So yeah, we're doing that for the third time now. So we're actually getting really experienced, we could say. No, so if there's one thing we can promise you, for sure, it's that there will be glitches, and bear with us and have in mind that this is about community and not perfection. But talking about community now, Jule, can you share some of the examples of how people have engaged in the campaign so far, and especially how they have been using our symbol?
The bracelet.
The bracelet.
Yeah. So what we've seen so far is that you guys are pretty motivated and you are prepared. So if we could switch to my screen, I would like to show some of the examples of the great bracelets that so many of you already built and already posted before MH Day. And today there were many, many, many more examples. We will show them during the next days. But here we go with some examples. So this was our GIF showing you how you could craft your own bracelet and add your voice to the movement. This is one of many possibilities. And here's what you made out of this idea. So there are many, many examples working with beads, but there were also many great examples like using toothpaste and lipstick if there were no beads to get. So the great examples, the creativity had no limit, I would say, and it's pretty cool. So these are our bracelets that we had crafted in a social project in India, but as you can see, people are pretty happy. People had fun making their own bracelets, and most of all, people are pretty proud and self-confident showing their bracelets off, and I really love that. I really also love that I see very often that you don't use you don't wear the bracelet just to set a statement for yourself, but you wear it to have a starting point for a conversation. Not only with, I really like this one, this uterus, bracelet uterus. So not only starting a conversation with, let's say, adults, but also, for example, with kids. So you have a great starting point, and there were many kids also who crafted great bracelets or worked with, for example, with our paper template. I think there should be one of the next stories should be one of our paper templates. So we provided on our website, we provided a template that you could just color. So you could color five beads. Let me have a look. In red, and then you could cut it out, and then you could use it as a bracelet as well. Here's one of those great examples. Okay, and yeah, so that's it for now. We will have many more great examples. You can also see them on our Instagram account, but yeah, I'm getting back to Ina now. Or to
Thorsten.
Over to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're getting right into the discussions with our first guests. It's a real pleasure to welcome Laura Amaya, Associate Director from FSG, and David Parker, Deputy Director of Strategy, Planning and Management in the Water Sanitation Hygiene Program at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Hello, welcome to Studio MH Day.
Hi, Thorsten.
Thank you. Thank you, Thorsten.
Hello, wow, excellent, with a background. You are still muted, I believe. No? I can't hear
you hear me?
I can hear
Can you
you.
hear?
Yeah,
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello,
can
can you
hear
hear me, Thorsten?
Yeah, we can.
Hello? Can you say something, David?
Yes, I can hear you fine. I can hear Laura okay.
Okay, now I can hear you too.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, good.
I think I had a
Thank
bad
you.
contact. Welcome to Studio MH Day, David and Laura. It's a pleasure to have you. David, the first question goes to you. The Gates Foundation commissioned the original 2017 landscape study by FSG titled An Opportunity to Address Menstrual Health and Gender Equity. Why have you now decided to invest in this update of the 2017 landscape study?
Yeah, so thank you again, Thorsten. Really happy to be here and celebrate MH Day with you and all of the viewers. So the Gates Foundation has many different programmatic areas that involve MH, including our water sanitation hygiene team, our family planning team, some of our global health delivery teams. And it's never, though, been a particular focus topic in and of itself for the foundation. But as we've explored it more and more, we've really wanted to understand what the landscape is out there of partners and investors and programmatic activities to see what more, if anything, the foundation can do. And so FSG was a great partner to us in the original study a few years ago, and we felt that it was time now to revisit what was happening in the field to help inform our internal strategic planning process that's underway.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And Laura, you are one of the lead authors of Advancing Gender Equity by Improving Menstrual Health, the new report FSG just published. Can you please summarize the key findings of the report for us?
Yeah, I can try. And thank you, Thorsten, and everyone at WASH United organizing this great event. It's wonderful to be here and wonderful to be here with David as well. So there are quite a number of findings, and I encourage everyone to read the report, or at least the exact summary. It's a couple of pages long. But I think there are 4 big ones that really jump out for me. The first one is that MHH really bridges across different sectors, and they're all deeply interrelated. So there's no like single entry point, and you need to consider all of the intersections between MHH and sexual and reproductive health, and water and sanitation and hygiene, product access, social norms, etc. So like the sort of interconnected nature is really critical. I think the second one that jumped out a lot in this report had come out already in 2016, but really came out strongly now, is the super critical need to engage both women and men. So menstruation is something that happens to women, or some menstruators that do not identify as women, but it's not just a women's issue, right? So there's a sort of key message that I want us to consider as a we need to bring men along in the conversation. And it was actually really nice to have David as a partner at the Gates Foundation, because it was exactly that. It was just not a bunch of women in a room trying to cook something up together. I think the other one is that many organizations, including ourselves, fall into the trap of seeing menstruation from a sort of point in time perspective. So when we actually zoom out to see the full experience of an individual, a woman or a girl, with menstruation, we see how it evolves throughout her life. So we can make a more holistic assessment of how it impacts her at different points in life. So how do different needs show up at different stages? How do negative effects that start maybe early on compound over time? And then what does that mean for when and how we can intervene to improve different kinds of outcomes through MHH? Now, the fourth big one, which again came out in 2016, more in the sort of community focus, but came out really strongly in our latest report, published just 6 weeks ago, is that the stigma and the social norms, the gender norms, the taboos that surround menstruation and that prevent movement on MHH. And that happens really across levels. So from, individuals and communities all the way to like institutions and systems where menstruation is systematically overlooked.
Yeah. Great points. Really, really, really great points, Laura. And I think like some things that we've been discussing a lot also within WASH United is, then stigma and negative social norms is kind of like an underlying cause that I mean, like why don't governments invest in MHH education? Because it's overlooked, because it's stigmatized, because it's ignored. And that again like has a lot to do with not involving men who still are in most positions of power. So I think like these two are like very, very strongly interconnected. I think it was also great to see today on Studio MH Day to actually have like a lot of men in the conversations. So it wasn't what you just described, like a few women in a room cooking something up. And no, great points. If you now look at the report, what would you say are like the main recommendations of the report? Where do you see the key opportunities for action?
Yeah, so again, we have 6 opportunities that we outlined in the report. And they talk about how different types of organizations can improve MHH, from foundations and NGOs to companies to governments sort of across the board. I think there are 3 big ones that I feel are essential to unlocking progress in MHH. So the first one, going back to what you were talking about, one of the big ones is we need to break down stigma and taboos surrounding menstruation. And that's across levels. So of course, at the individual and at the community level, but also within broader systems. We do have blind spots as organizations, and we need to recognize where those are in how we design programs and strategies, in what we fund and what we prioritize, and in the interconnections that we draw between existing programming and MHH. So for example, if you think about women's economic empowerment, or if you're thinking about sanitation, they may be not as closely related to menstruation, but the reality is that most women or menstruators who may not identify as women are menstruating once a month for a really number of years. So it's really critical. I think that's a really big one for me. The second one is I think we need to dig deeper into the links between MHH and other issues. So this means organizations seeing how MHH shows up across their programming. Thinking about how things like bleeding preferences play a key role in contraceptive uptake, right? That's something we didn't know a few years ago. Or about how sanitation systems design shapes how women can and will or won't use wash solutions. And those are just a couple of examples, and we have other areas that come up in the report. I think the third one, and I don't know if this is the most important, but I think it's probably pretty high up there, is that we need to start investing in this issue. We need to start investing in this issue a lot more than we have done in the past. And that's what's really encouraging about having the Gates Foundation fund this report. It really brings it back to the field, sort of a call for action for us to think about it. It means actually investing in understanding the problem. So one of the key things that jumped out in our findings is that there's not enough data, not enough evidence related to MHH. So for one example is we tried to assess the scale of the challenge, which is 500 million women and girls who do not have everything they need to manage their menstruation around the world. But we did that extrapolating PMA 2020 survey data for just 8 countries in Africa. That's all there is. That's all we know. So understanding the challenge, we need to align on a common set of metrics that get reported consistently across geographies over time, allow us to make comparisons, and we need to understand how MHH links to other life outcomes. So workforce participation, I talked about, improved maternal health, greater agency for women, like basically everything that relates to gender equity, to determine where and how we place our efforts to MHH. So it's investing, but it's knowing how and where to invest.
Amazing. We could continue for 20 more minutes. This is so interesting, David and Laura. And sometimes you congratulate yourself for making a choice and doing the schedule of the program. And I just I just congratulate ourselves for putting you in front, because you so beautifully and wonderfully set the scene for the following discussions. That was really, really amazing. Thank you so much for your contributions. And we have to close with one short question, because we're running out of time. David, Laura, do you have a quick message for the MHD movement?
David, do you want to start?
I would just say keep up the great work and the focus that you have on this very important topic. So, thank you for your contributions and everybody who's been involved.
Excellent. Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, and I'd say I'd probably be a little bit more pushy than that and say this momentum to step it up, right? If we're thinking about ending period poverty and period stigma by 2030, let's celebrate what we have going on today and 2020. But let's come together as a field and let's galvanize all those little pockets of momentum to speed up progress for change and really make of this 2020 and the decade we have ahead of us like a really meaningful opportunity to create.
We are so with you in that. It's time for action. It's time for action. Thank you so much for being on the show, David and Laura. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you, Thorsten.
Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Oh, wow.
I think for me that was great also to see the development that Laura played out, that we also saw with MH Day. We started really silent. It was mostly addressed in schools. And now we really say it's across the life cycle. We touch much more other issues and other sectors. And we have maybe instead of only calling the Menstrual Hygiene Day, we make it a decade for menstruation ahead.
Or maybe.
But first, let's turn into Jule.
Yeah.
And see what's happening on social media. You have some highlights for us.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at the media coverage. Because now, so when we started, that was, 10 hours ago or something? So then we didn't really know what was going to happen today. And now there are some pretty interesting stories we could tell. If we could switch to my screen, we have one story by Forbes with the headline, "Period Poverty is Getting Worse During Coronavirus, Warns Charity." So this is a topic which we very well know. A side note, we will collect all the links, and you can find them after the event on our website, I guess. And then here's a pretty nice story from Edmonton, Canada, and I did a bit of research, and in some cities in Canada today, Menstrual Hygiene Day is a holiday. So I guess in Edmonton that's the case, but I don't really know. But in Edmonton there is a pretty nice bridge, which is during these days. I don't know if it's during May. It is lit every evening in another color, depending on which occasion. In honor of which occasion it is lit. And today, you can guess. So today, due to Menstrual Hygiene Day, this bridge is going to be lit red. So maybe anyone from Edmonton could, if anyone's watching, could take a picture and tag us and Menstrual Hygiene Day and use our hashtags. That would be great if we could have a picture of Edmonton Bridge lit in red. That would be pretty nice. So. Surprise us. And here we have another story from India. So we're going around the globe right now because right now we have stories from around the globe. The title is "India has an unlikely new type of period health educators, men." So pretty interesting, pretty rare, obviously, but yeah, we're working on it. So also pretty interesting. It's published by abc17news.com. And do we have time for another one? One, okay. So then we have here what the entrepreneurfund.com titles Menstrual Hygiene Day 2020. 14 women talk about how periods are no big deal, more lifestyle. Okay. Yeah. But that's, yeah, we have a pretty nice media coverage right now. I think we could get back to some more articles afterwards. Yeah, and so I get back to Thorsten.
Thank you. And I'm super excited about a conversation with now Peggy Thorpe. Peggy is the Senior Advisor for Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights at Global Affairs Canada. Peggy, are you on the line?
I am, and I'm very happy to be here participating on Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Hello, Peggy.
Hello, Peggy.
Hi. Hi. Hello.
At long last.
Wow, here you were crossing our bracelets.
Yes, absolutely.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day and a very, very warm welcome to the show, Peggy.
Thank you.
Peggy, the Canadian government has been such an amazing champion for gender equality for so many years. Can you tell us why menstrual health and hygiene is also important to Global Affairs Canada?
Well, we believe that menstrual health and hygiene is central to advancing gender equity on multiple fronts and is certainly part of our feminist international assistance policy. And if you look at the education sector, for example, we know that adolescent girls miss out on their classes during their menstruation when schools don't have water and sanitation facilities. We know that adolescent girls face stigma and discrimination when they menstruate. They have grown up feeling shame, feeling dirty, and learn to restrict their movements to avoid accidents. They live in fear of being discovered menstruating through a blood stain on their clothing. That's the environment where we're often working. And we know that for some societies where we work, menstruation is a sign of fertility, a sign that their daughters are ready to bear children. Girls are forced into early childhood marriages, leading to adolescent pregnancies. And of course, for us, menstrual health and hygiene is an essential component of sexual reproductive health and rights. And also, menstruators need to be able to manage their menstruation in a hygienic way, in privacy and with dignity. But it's also about embedding menstrual health and hygiene into comprehensive, evidence-based sexuality education. It's about the right to learn about fertility awareness and how to avoid an unwanted pregnancy. The right for boys and girls to understand how and why their body is changing and why their bodily integrity has to be respected. And I guess maybe my last point would be to bring out the fact that it's estimated that at any given moment, and today, at least 300 million women and adolescent girls around the world are menstruating, many without water and sanitation. We know from UNICEF and WHO's latest report on WASH facilities and healthcare settings that 896 million people use healthcare facilities with no water service. And there's 1.5 billion who use facilities with no sanitation service. We believe that by providing access to WASH services, that this is needed so that we can ensure that the women and girls are equipped to manage menstruation with dignity and in good health.
Excellent. Peggy, you mentioned many of the challenges already that women and girls are facing. Can you give us some examples of the kind of interventions Global Affairs Canada has invested in so far to tackle the issue?
Yeah, why don't we start off maybe looking at what we've been trying to do through the COVID-19. We're supporting many humanitarian partners such as UNICEF, $4 million. We've given UNHCR, 9 million, the International Committee of the Red Cross, 7 million, for WASH activities around the world. but it's not, it's more than wash. They're working to build hand washing facilities, distribute hygiene kits to hospitals, clinics, women's centers, and schools to help fight the transmission of the virus, and construct and repair water and sanitation facilities. UNHCR, to give you an example, is working in South Sudan, and they've given over 4,000 hygiene kits. They've distributed this to people that need them. And then we support UNFPA supplies program, which we know they provide contraceptives and menstrual supplies to women and girls in humanitarian situations, often referred to as dignity kits. Then we have a project with the Canadian Red Cross for $7.5 million to reduce barriers and improve opportunities for girls to attend school by giving them menstrual hygiene products, improving safe hygiene and sanitation projects in schools, and reducing violence. And in a Francophone country, in Mali, for example, we support a 10 million initiative implemented by an institution called Water Sojima to integrate gender, menstrual health and hygiene, and gender-based violence in the school curriculum. And it supports local women in implementing income generation activities related to menstrual hygiene. So that's a snapshot of a few of the activities that we're doing.
So in a quite a broad range of programs that you're including investments in MHH. Excellent. So Peggy, what we're often kind of like lacking also like in the sector or for the issue is kind of like political leadership. It's like high-level political decision makers so far have not many high-level political decision makers have associated themselves with the issue of menstruation and have stood up for the issue for women and girls and the issue of periods. But recently, two top-level political decision makers in Canada, I understand, put on the bracelet and stood up for MHM. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I think, Canada believes that the global movement has been successful in mobilizing the international community to stand up and talk openly about menstrual health and hygiene. And our government, and as you know, our minister today, is live on Twitter and on Facebook.
Excellent.
And we're getting a lot of responses from that.
Great.
There has been an exponential growth of partnerships working in all aspects of menstrual health and hygiene, including the education, product development, health, research, advocacy. And we're listening to many webinars on all the different elements of menstrual health and hygiene. We think that this needs to continue and to be amplified. We also believe that stigma and discrimination about menstruation exists. We know that, but we see progress, lots of progress. It is true that in many countries you can't talk openly about comprehensive sexuality education, but the topic of menstrual health and hygiene resonates increasingly with many leaders. We believe this is a portal of entry to begin conversations about bodily integrity, fertility awareness. We can make the links between menstruation and why girls and women need wash in schools, in health facilities, and in their households. We can be vocal about the importance of supporting the development of an environmentally friendly, safe, affordable products.
So it's really, really great then to see like with your Minister of Foreign Affairs, François-Philippe Champagne, and now also your Minister of International Development, Karina Gold, two really senior level leaders to stand up, show the bracelet and show that they're not ashamed and drive conversations and break the silence around the issue. One last question to you, Peggy. What is your message to the MHD movement?
Oh, words are not enough. This needs to be matched with political will, resources, and engagement of a broad range of stakeholders, including government, the private sector for infrastructure and product development, researchers, teachers, and the health community. There are many aspects to menstrual hygiene and health. Family planning and other sexual and reproductive health commodities, including menstrual health items, are central to women's health, empowerment, and development. These vital services may be impacted as supply chains undergo strains from pandemic purpose. But as others have said, periods do not stop because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
We must continue.
We must. And we had this wonderful quote today. Julep found that from South Africa. The ministry there said, periods don't stop for pandemics, neither does the South African Ministry for and the Office of Standardization. So wonderful. So that is a great slogan. It was taken up by a lot of people today. Thank you so much, Peggy, for your time and your wonderful contribution. It's time for action.
It's time for action.
Thank you so much. Ciao.
Ciao.
Great. And we stay in Canada, actually.
Yes.
We have guests from the sorry, I'm just getting settled, and then we're ready. Pull out this. Yeah, staying in Canada, who, as I said, heard very active, and now we're presenting a national perspective. And this national perspective is provided by Julia Anderson, the CEO of CanWatch, which is the Canadian Partnership for Women and Children's Health, a membership organization of more than 100 non-governmental organizations and academics, health professionals, etc., etc. She's joined by members of the Period Promise campaign implemented by United Way of the Lower Mainland, which is an NGO serving the needs of local community. And representing there, we have a whole bunch which I really welcome. This is Nikki Hill, Principal of Earnscliffe Strategy Group, Susan Skidmore, Secretary-Treasurer of the BC Federation of Labour, and Neil Adolf, also with United Way. It's a really diverse group, and very welcome to the show, everyone. And happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Thanks. You too.
CanWatch recently became official partner of MH Day. A very, very warm welcome to the movement. And since then, we already hosted 2 webinars together on MH Day, but also really learning how CanWatch partners, what they've been doing in Canada, but also abroad. Julia, can you tell us a little bit how the issue of menstrual health and hygiene developed within Canada and especially within your coalition over the recent years?
Absolutely. So excited to be here, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to everybody. Really excited to see who tunes in after this and who's online to watch this. But yeah, an important movement to be a part of. So I'm Julia Anderson. I'm the COO at CanWatch, and CanWatch is an organization of members who work mostly globally, but that are based in Canada. And recently we've become more involved in domestic mobilizing because we hosted something called Women Deliver here in Canada that many people would be familiar with last year. And we were able to connect into issues and get excited about issues where there's global solidarity. So where there's a common experience internationally in developing countries. I saw you just had Peggy on talking about sort of context that Canada is involved in. So those pieces, but then what's happening on the ground here. We learned a lot. We are learning a lot about these things. We're active in this process alongside amazing partners such as Period Promise and all kinds of organizations that are advocating in Canada. We know the key statistics are the same in Canada as they are globally. So when you're a rural woman, when you're a woman that's in poverty, you have less access to the menstrual products that you need. You have less access, even in many cases, to the water that you need to menstruate. We know that women spend up to $6,000 across their lifetimes, and this can be doubled, tripled in areas. And when you're talking about, Canada's a very big country, and when you're talking about up north, you can see those numbers, for a box of tampons go up from $4.99 to $24.99 and just be astronomical for women to address the needs that they have. We've done some work in Canada talking and some surveys across the country, and we've learned that 63% of women who menstruate or people who menstruate have had to miss out on activities. And this is something that our partners know about globally as well. So whether it's school, whether it's a sporting activity or whatnot, women are missing out because they don't have access to the products they need and the information and education about what's going in their bodies. So we always talk about both the product and supply chains, but at the same time, you have to talk about the education as well. And 41% of people say they have not received the information about menstruation from a healthcare professional. So the information about where to access things, what's going on in your body is coming from many different sources. So what are we doing about this? We are very proud that our members, we didn't do the hard work or the heavy lifting. There's organizations like the United Way and Period Promise that did that, but they advocated successfully to have what's called the tampon tax removed across the country. Ooh. So menstrual products like food and things like that are no longer taxed in the same way that other products that are luxury products or non-basic essentials are taxed. And we've also seen British Columbia really leading the way, and my colleagues on the call with me are from British Columbia, in showing the rest of Canada how to get things done, where they've had their government making products accessible in bathrooms, in schools, and across these access areas where women are, where people who menstruate are showing up. They should be able to access toilet paper to use the washroom, so they should also be able to access menstrual products. So CanWatch as a convener, we're really excited to be supporting the movement. I am calling for an end to the ridiculousness of period poverty in the next 5 years. I think it's completely within our ability to get this thing out of the way, get this thing dealt with. And I think we have the partners and the people around the table that we need to make menstruation no longer a taboo subject, and menstrual products, menstrual health information, something that's accessible to all, no matter what income level you come from, no matter where you are across this country or across the globe.
Thank you, Julia. That was really powerful statements that you made. And what I really liked is that you really laid the floor to the other members of the call, because you said, yes, you have challenges and you have the data about it, but there is a group of actors who are really leading the way and have done an amazing campaign, the Period Promise campaign, who brought together multi-stakeholders. So I think I turn to Nikki. Can you share some of the highlights of the campaign and your success and advocacy? And we're really, as Julia said, learning from you. So maybe can you share some of the strategies you applied to make it a collective effort?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having us here, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. I have my bracelet. I
Yes.
got it Women's Fever last year. So we're really pleased to be participating and to be one of a number of Canadian nonprofits who are working in this space. And we're, focused here in beautiful British Columbia, but learning from partners across the country as well. So we started this United Way campaign back in late 2016 as a collection campaign to get donations of menstrual products to the agencies and nonprofits that United Way works with here in the Lower Mainland. And we realized really quickly that there was a much deeper problem than we had anticipated when we started that work. We started hearing stories in the community that people just hadn't told because of the stigma associated, stories about kids getting arrested for trying to get tampons for their siblings at the store, teachers who had been paying out of pocket for years to make sure that kids in their classroom were coming into school, workers who were missing shifts because they didn't have access and they were choosing between food and menstrual products. So we started pretty quickly down a policy and advocacy path. We've benefited, as Suzanne can speak to, from partnering with the labor movement here in British Columbia and Canada, which has been a very huge part of our campaign from day one. And then part of our success, I think, is the diversity of our supporters, as well as we expanded out our collection campaign to really help raise the awareness and education every year. It also helped us bring on new partners, corporate partners, organizations that may not have been a part of such a campaign, like credit unions, insurance companies, who not only did the collection, but also made commitments through some of the tactics that we used, including what we call a policy agreement, where an employer or an organization can sign up to commit to putting free menstrual products in their washrooms to ensure not only that employees, but in some cases the public can access them. We've worked really heavily with municipalities putting forth motions to ensure that public facilities have free menstrual products. And, I think the beauty of the Period Promise campaign is how many people make it their own and shape it every time they touch it.
Yeah, thanks. People make it their own, and as you said, and this is again a super nice transition to Suzanne, a Federation of Labor who's behind campaigning for period poverty. Suzanne, we hear the successes that you made, but also want to know, what are you still planning in the future? Oh, you have to unmute yourself, and then we can hear you. Welcome. Can you say something? No? Fortunately, can't hear you. Try again. No? I think no one can hear her, right? I'm really sorry. Maybe, without putting you on the spot, Neil, and not losing time, would you be able to answer that question?
Not as well as Suzanne could.
Oh, yeah, I know. Suzanne, can you say something? No, we can't hear you.
Yeah, still can't hear me?
No, yes, now. Yes, okay. The floor is yours. Very quickly.
Little AirPods, they don't always work. So thanks for jumping in, Neil. But for us, this is our first year celebrating MH Day at the United Way and here in British Columbia. And so we're really using it to raise awareness for how our campaign is responding to period poverty in our region during the COVID-19 situations going all over the world. It's created an increase in poverty, particularly for women and girls, trans and non-binary folks. But getting products out to those vulnerable communities in a new way and trying to bring period poverty into the conversation about food insecurity during the pandemic is part of the work that we're doing. It's so crucial. And so it's also an engagement opportunity for us with some of our key decision makers at every level of government. So we're making a collective promotional video. You may have seen it. It went out this morning, where we're highlighting the commitment that various politicians, activists, and advocates have made to be involved in the movement. So some of the work we're doing. Yeah,
thanks for sharing. And we're also linking the webinar we did and the links to your campaign. I think the time is up. I'm really sorry for, it went so quickly. And I'm really sorry, but I loved that you all came together to join the call. And Canada is really setting a good scene today for Menstrual Hygiene Day. Yeah, and what is the bridge? Where is it? Edmonton?
Edmonton.
So if you know someone in Edmonton, please send us a photo of the bridge. Apparently lighted up in red today. Thank you so much.
I'll try and find that.
Yes.
Yay.
Have a good rest.
If anyone wants, you can check out the hashtag Period Promise today on Twitter and see more about the campaign work as well.
Thank you,
cool.
Nikki. Good. Welcome and be in touch soon. Thank you for celebrating with us. Goodbye.
Bye.
I would say that Canada is setting the pace. I mean, ending period poverty within 5 years, as Julia said. Wow, wow. I just can say wow.
Yeah.
That would be amazing if that was possible in Canada. And I mean, great input, power of collaboration, power of collective action and partnerships, the power of campaigning in a way that other people own the campaign, can really kind of run with it, can contextualize it. Reminds me a lot how we think about Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Yeah.
I mean, enabling a whole range of partners to take it, adopt it, and make it their own and give it their own different twist.
Yeah, and talking about the twist and making it their own.
And collective action and the power of partnership. Yeah.
Yula has something.
I got something
which
for
you. Is also a collective contribution by our partners and members into a very great campaign video this year.
Powerful video.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
I want a world where every woman and girl can enjoy their sexual and reproductive health and rights and not be limited by their periods.
It's 2020. No girl, no woman should be held back because she menstruates.
I want a world where we can talk about periods openly, with no fear.
I want open conversations about menstruation, and I want all men and boys to be supportive.
It's time for men to help destigmatize menstruation.
I believe we should try and overcome all kinds of social taboos that are out there in this 21st century.
I want all disabled girls and women to have access to pads, menstrual hygiene management, education, and period-friendly facilities everywhere.
We need inclusion of all women and girls with disabilities as we develop menstrual hygiene products and infrastructure.
Sanitation facilities have to be accessible to all menstruators. Leave no one behind.
We need equality.
It's time for action.
We need women's solidarity.
It's time for action.
I want to see a world where taxes on period products are scrapped.
안전하고 생태적이고 저렴한 월급요금이 필요합니다.
Countries remove taxes on pads to make them affordable for everyone.
All women and girls around the world should be able to afford any menstrual hygiene product of their choice.
Good menstrual hygiene enables women and girls to reach their full potential.
Increased investment in research for better menstrual health and hygiene for all.
So it's now time to increase our investment in MHM.
It's time for cross-sectoral menstrual health programming for all.
I want to live in a world where no girl is stopped from having an education because of her period.
Every girl should have information about menstruation before their first period.
I strongly agree that periods should end a sentence and not a girl's education.
At Always, we want every girl to be able to manage her period with confidence. It's time for action.
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 Time for action.
It's time for action. Act now.
For sexual and reproductive health and rights.
For girls' education.
For human rights.
For women's and girls' health.
For economic development.
For gender equality.
It's time for action.
Yeah. Hi, Alexandra. Can you hear me, Alexandra? Alex? Can you say something? Alex, can you say something? Can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hi, there you go. Hi, our next guest is Alexandra Jigda, Sales Manager and Social Mission Leader from Citron Hygiene. Alex, welcome to Studio MH Day and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. How are you doing?
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. Hello, bonjour, guten Tag.
Hello, Alex.
Greetings from Kitchener, Ontario, formerly Berlin, actually.
Oh, wow. Greetings back from Berlin.
Again for having us today.
Alex, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. I mean, we're really excited to learn about the work that Citron Hygiene is doing in the social impact field. Citron Hygiene just joined the MHD partnership in January this year as a new partner. And we're super, super excited to hear from you about the social impact mission of Citron Hygiene and why you are passionate about menstrual health and hygiene.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
I can hear you, yes. Did you hear me?
So yes, thank you. Torsten, our mission at Citron Hygiene is quite simple: to build healthy spaces. And believe it or not, we have been involved in the world of menstrual hygiene for over 45 years. Wow. Literally, we are in the business of periods. Citron long ago, like many of you, identified major gaps in the entire infrastructure surrounding menstrual hygiene and specifically in public spaces. The availability, the access, the perpetual blind eye that is turned to all things involving menstruation. And this gap not only affects our most vulnerable in our communities, but all women, all girls, all people who menstruate. Throughout these years, our mission has been to educate and create awareness surrounding the importance of safe, accessible, and sustainable menstrual care programs, not only in the places that we live, but also the places where we work, the places where we go to learn, the places where we eat, and the places where we go to heal and worship. Our business has grown, and so has our responsibility, our platform to advocate, to educate, to truly help our communities encompass the concept of inclusivity, especially in our washrooms. Nobody should be outed, left out, embarrassed, or put at risk because of their periods. And so our focus is to ensure that our communities are well equipped and aware of the implications associated with the inadequate menstrual health hygiene. So, here we are, a member of this powerful movement, which is creating quite the seismic cultural shift in how we look at periods. And the goal is consistent: to end the stigma, to end period poverty, to elevate the standards, and to truly foster a level of decency surrounding the entire menstruation experience.
Excellent. Alex, can you give us some concrete examples?
And I apologize, Torsten, I have lost your audio, so I can no longer hear you.
Oh.
Can you hear me, Alex?
Can you hear me now? I have no idea why not. Alex, we have to. Yeah. Can you still can't hear me?
Here we are.
There we are.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. Can you give us just because we're running out of time a little bit? Can you give us some quick examples of the concrete programs that you're running to promote good MHH for all?
Absolutely. Torsten, unlike Europe, public washrooms across North America have been poorly equipped up until recently and even still to handle people that are menstruating. Some may argue, that we don't have the proper tools and we don't have the proper infrastructure. I work in the space of public hygiene. We are a service provider, and I have personally surveyed thousands of washrooms. Some may argue I have one of the sexiest jobs around, but regardless, my experience has really shown me firsthand that we still have a long way to go when it comes to making the washroom experience inclusive for everybody. One of our main areas of focus is partnering with organizations, municipalities, engaging decision makers in order to provide the infrastructure that allows for free vending of menstrual care products in public spaces. When we think about it, public restrooms, especially in North America, have been providing essentials like toilet paper, soap, paper towel, so that everyone has an inclusive experience in the washroom. But the challenge here is, as a naturally occurring biological function, why have menstrual products been left out of these essentials? Granted, some public washrooms have paid programming, but in this day and age, not a lot of people are carrying cash, and it might also restrict. So be it a young girl whose school's free vending machine is her only source for tampons, or the mother that leaves the house in such a frantic rush that she forgets to bring supplies. In both of these cases, it would be unjust for these women to have to miss out. Our other major initiative surrounding menstrual hygiene health is safe disposal. I spoke earlier about providing a level of decency to the entire menstrual experience, and disposal is no exception. We have come so far in our understanding of infectious disease. We have seen pandemics and are currently the biggest one we have seen in our lifetime. We're taking extreme measures to avoid touching surfaces because we know the potential risks. But what about blood? We are not equipped to be handling open blood waste in washrooms. And why, the question is, in the year 2020, with our talking Alexas and our drone food delivery services, are we still asking women and girls to use their hands to open a metal box hung on a partition wall and to add blood waste to the rest already sitting in an open paper bag? Blood is blood, and we don't need to be medical experts to appreciate risks associated with this exposure. In every other walk of life, we treat blood with precaution. So don't women, don't girls, don't menstruating people deserve the same consideration in the washroom.
Alex,
I
have to stop you here because
in providing hands-free, medically sound, safe disposal options. And we believe that women and girls deserve more than a contaminated metal box on the wall.
Alex, I have to stop you here.
But we're protecting our entire community.
Stop you here because we're running out of time, and otherwise we have to cut short of the next slot. Thank you so much that was a wealth of information about the work that you do and the social impact programs that you're running. Thank you so much for participating in today's show. We really appreciate it, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day, and greetings to you.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene
Thank you.
Day.
Ciao. Thank you so much. Ciao.
What I really liked and we didn't heard before was disposal.
Disposal. We haven't
so
talked about
I think
disposal
Alex
yet,
made a great point, which I know also a lot of developing countries are struggling and looking forward to. So while we fare well to Alex, we welcome now our next guest. Who is Julia Jack. She's from Brazil. In every of our spotlight session, we want to feature a young, dedicated activist because they're not only the future, but they really give voice to the needs of young women and girls. And Julia, she's also a social entrepreneur. And I would like to warmly welcome you, Julia, to Rio. Oh, I'm muted. No. I was unmute. I wasn't audible? Okay, so welcome, Julia. A very good afternoon to Rio. I'm really glad to talk to you. So my first question to you is, how did you become interested in the issue of menstrual hygiene?
Hey, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm going to share a little bit about how I've been engaged in activism for women's rights before menstrual activism. I think it all started when I was 14 years old. I spent most of the high school leading a feminist collective in the public school I went to. So we would have weekly meetings to talk about sexual education, domestic violence, abusive relationships. And at the age of 16, I went to the National Congress of Brazil to present a law I wrote on women's rights and economy. I think it all just gained a different perspective when I was attending the Latin American Leadership Boot Camp in Lima, Peru, in August of last year. And I was watching this man talk about his NGO named X Runner. And by the name, you cannot really tell what they do. So they start the lecture with a question: what do you do when you wake up? And the students were like, oh, I use the bathroom, I take a shower, I wash my face. And then he interrupted us, asking, what if you don't have a bathroom? And then we realized that his mission was to lead toilets and construct bathrooms in low-income communities in Lima. And it was, I think it was with this that he started questioning us, what is something that is just so normal in your life that you never thought that people around you in your own community might not have access to. And I've never perceived myself as someone with a lot of privileges because I grew up in a very violent community in the state of Rio, and I come from a very low-income family. So I started working, selling chocolates on the streets when I was 14 to financially provide for my family. But at that moment, I started listing so many things that I had access to, like electricity, water, bathrooms, and then I thought about period credits.
And it seems you really identified the challenges and then took action, and you focused on working for and with women in prisons in Rio. How did you do this, and what did you do?
yeah, so when you type something like lack of period products in Brazil on Google, one of the first things that you will read is that incarcerated women are responsible for buying their own pads, which is a problem because they cannot go out and buy them, and most of them are abandoned by their families once or partners when they receive a sentence. And that becomes even more dangerous when you read a research by the Getúlio Vargas Foundation made in 2018 that shows that female incarcerated population has increased 650% in less than 2 decades. So just like in my country, in prisons, pads and period products are not considered to be essential hygiene items, but so most of them have to use all sorts of things to control the bleeding, like newspaper, any type of paper they can find, pieces of clothes, and even bread, according to a research made in the state of São Paulo. But it's very important to highlight that menstrual poverty goes beyond the lack of menstrual products. We talk about menstrual products when we talk about girls who leave high school without the basic knowledge on menstruation, choose not to talk about it because it's such a taboo. And we talk about menstrual poverty when we have to hide tampons when leaving the classroom to use the bathroom. We talk about menstrual poverty when we perceive period products as non-essential, and actually half of the population of the country needs them every month. So thinking about all this, I created Absorvidas, a project to enable female inmates to produce eco-friendly period products, clothes, menstrual pads for themselves through paid work, and lead menstrual educations to prison. And each woman should have four clothes menstrual pads, and it's just like a reusable pad. But the thing is, it can last for up to 2 years, and you don't need any special product to clean it. Just water will do, and it's even better for your health once it's free of plastics and other types of products that might cause you allergy.
And yeah, so I'm really impressed how you applied the research that you did and then took action. And I'm really interested to know from you, what are your plans for the next coming year?
I want to keep working on Absorvidas, and at the beginning of my journey creating the project, I calculated how much I would need to buy all the fabric I would need to produce closed menstrual pads for all the incarcerated population of the state of Rio de Janeiro. And at first, I was shocked, and then I was very, very sad because somehow I cannot seem to express the financial viability and importance of my project. So let's check this. In order to buy all the fabric I need to produce closed menstrual pads for 2,000 incarcerated women, which is the entire incarcerated female population of the state of Rio, I would need around $6,000. $6,000 would be enough to end the suffering of all of those women. And I've tried the government, I've tried NGOs, and I've tried private companies. But I think it's tricky to be an 18-year-old woman asking for that kind of support. I'm about to start college. I was accepted as a global schooler in Babson College for the class of 2024, and I hope I can expand my networking and develop some skills that hopefully can help me find the support I need.
Yeah, and we hope some people listen today that hear your call to maybe invest in what you're doing, because it seems like really doable, and you seem to know what you do. Last but not least, my last question, a very short answer, hopefully by you. What is your message to the global community watching today?
I think it's very important to support campaign projects that are fighting menstrual poverty. And if you're watching this and if you have a chance to support those people, please do so. Become a menstrual activist yourself. Donate period products, raise awareness around the theme, demand the knowledge you deserve on menstruation in the classroom. And look, I'm very passionate about my work, and I don't plan on stopping, but I recognize that there's so much I can do. Even if we manage to produce post-menstrual pads for the entire incarcerated population of Brazil, we will need to do it again every 2 years. We're going to be fighting the same battle if the government doesn't take action. So I know this is a long life journey, and I don't want my project to be just a band-aid in a system that is very, very old and that is in fact broken. So if you think you can help me fight menstrual poverty and you are watching this, please reach out to me. I would love to talk more about it.
Absolutely. And I would have loved to talk more. And I would love to have talked more with you, Julia, but again, we're running out of time. But it was great having you on today's show. Have a good rest of today and have a good rest of the year, especially with joining the college. Thank you so much, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to Brazil.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Quick
turn
over to Yule for some.
I don't really know what to say about this, but I have a little piece. Found something I think it's in Ghana. Yeah, in Ghana. So this morning in Ghana there was a panel. I think it was a Facebook Live event called It's a Men's World, MENSE. It's a men's world. So it was about, the topic is clear. And on the panel were 5 men, and that's all. And I couldn't do the research whether that's a joke or not. I don't really know, but I really like the headline from soirenews.com. The headline was Men's World. Social media blasts organizers for an all-male panel discussion on menstruation. and then critics said the panel should have had female representatives. So really interesting. I think we'll put this link also in the collection. I don't really know what happened there, but yeah. Okay, one little joke from my side. And now back to Thorsten, I guess.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's a men's world. What? Seriously?
Thank you so much, Yule, for handing over.
Yeah.
Our next guest is...
Sarah is there.
Sarah's there.
Yeah.
Our next guest is Sarah Paulsen. Sarah is the Senior Global Creative and Design Director at Kimberly-Clark. Sarah, welcome to the show.
I've seen her already.
You've seen her?
Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah.
Sarah, welcome to the show. Are you muted, Sarah?
I was.
Hey, Sarah, nice to see you. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day, Sarah.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to you.
Oh, that's a beautiful one. You made that yourself.
No, my 14-year-old daughter made it for me.
Even better.
Even better. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. It's such an amazing day. So much great content, and I've been following the speakers today. It's just been a phenomenal program.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Sarah, Kimberly-Clark joined the MHA partnership just recently. So you're new to the team. Can you tell us a little bit more about your broader social impact mission of Kimberly-Clark, of Kotex, and how that aligns with the Menstrual Hygiene Day movement?
Absolutely. Well, first, Thorsten, I want to say we're so excited to be part of the Menstrual Hygiene Day this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so impressed with the work that you and your organization does. And I want to say thank you, because it's phenomenal work, and it's really, really changing the conversation. For the Kimberly-Clark's part, I'm going to speak primarily about our Kotex brand, which is one of our largest brands within the Kimberly-Clark portfolio. We have a family of brands, but Kotex is really the brand that's focused primarily in the same space that you are. Our purpose as a brand is ensuring that a period never gets in the way of any woman's progress. That's a really big, lofty purpose with a lot of different things that we can action within it. But the spaces that we're really focused in, the biggest barriers that we see for girls and women resolve around these topics. We're working to fight period stigma and ensure access to product for girls and women around the globe. And we're also focused in on supporting girls and women to achieve independent futures, whether that's through education, job training, getting that first break in the world. We're really focused around, those areas. And, when we saw the work you were doing and the work, that you do through Wash United, we just couldn't think of a better partnership given so much synergy and kind of our shared passion to drive these actions and this change in society.
Awesome. So what are some of the highlights of your social impact work from the last year? That would be one question. And basically related to that, can you also give us like a glimpse of like the stuff that you did around MHD this year?
Absolutely. So, there's a lot going on and that has been going on over the last, year and years leading up to this year with Kotex. But I'll start maybe with a little bit of what we've been doing this week. We've asked all of our employees around the globe to get involved in Menstrual Hygiene Day, and not just the employees themselves, but also through, bringing in their families, their children, their loved ones, and really driving home this message and having these conversations. We've asked them to share content. We've asked them to, help drive not only awareness of these issues, but really conversation around the topics to start to drive change, and really kind of build that rapport. We've also engaged in conversations this week, both within our organization internally as well as externally. We had a virtual event, which Thorsten, you were a partner in, which we so appreciated. That was led by our Chief Growth Officer, Allison Lewis, really moderating and driving conversation around this topic with several of our NGO partners, as well as some internal folks, to just shine a light on these topics and create that movement. We've been promoting this day and the content globally through the brand sites, through our social channels, out to our consumers, and we've seen some really great engagement. We also have some really wonderful programs that have been happening. We have an effort in the U.S., which is the Alliance for Period Supplies Partnership, which has driven over 30 million product donations over the last several years. We know how important that is. And we also have some, just a lot of really, important programs in markets, including Russia, Malaysia, Australia, everything from school education to building bathrooms in Brazil and Bolivia, and driving opportunities for women through some programs in Russia and Malaysia, working to give them training, experience, and funding to pursue some of their passions.
Broad portfolio of social impact actions. What I really like is the idea of engaging the workforce, of making staff champions for the issue, because that's really what we need to in order to break the stigma. We can't stay within our, our circle of the converted. We need to get everybody to kind of like to change like the way they think, feel, and act around menstruation. So that's really exciting. Can you just because I think like we're close in time, we're lacking a lot of time. 2 sentences about like what your plans are for the next year, and 1 sentence, a message to the movement.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of our plans moving forward, this week we have used your call to action, Menstrual Hygiene Day. The message you've put out there, it's time to act. We've taken that to heart, and we've used it to launch a new program with Kotex that is the purpose program called the She Can Initiative. And I would encourage folks to come and check it out and learn how they can be part of it to help us really achieve this mission together, working with different NGOs as well as yourselves, and thinking about codifying and crystallizing that for the future. There's some great work happening there.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And happy Menstrual Hygiene Day again. Kudos to your daughter for making this beautiful bracelet. And thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
the COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's my turn now, and I think we will show a great picture now because, yes, we talked a lot about how COVID-19 and the pandemic impacted the lives of all of us. And we weren't really so sure 3 months ago if Menstrual Hygiene Day will happen, and or if it could happen.
Yeah.
But then we really anonymously heard from across the globe that our partner said, no, please go on, because periods don't stop for pandemics.
Yeah.
And we also don't want to stop. And that's why Menstrual Hygiene Day is happening. To amidst the pandemic, to really say this is an issue that needs attention, because the pandemic highlights already existing challenges, but it also aggravates challenges now. And that's why we created an infographic to really help the community with a tool that is easy shareable, has key arguments. We created that together with a group of actors from the Global Menstrual Collective, namely the African Coalition for Menstrual Health Management, PSI, WaterAid, Days for Girls, and WCCC. And what the infographic does is, I think, yes, we talk a lot about the problems, and we should talk about the problems that are there. And this has been highlighted as disrupted access to information about menstruation, because you can't go to school anymore, or you live far from the internet. There's disrupted access to products we talked a lot about today. Also, when schools are closed, there's no distribution program. Lack of access to water, sanitation, and hygiene infrastructure has been a big challenge already, and now it's even more crucial. And the taboos and stigma are still persisting, especially if you're now locked down in the family. And we also know that the media is extremely focusing on COVID and cutting through those discussions. We were really afraid that menstruation doesn't get a space and doesn't get heard across that. But teaser ahead, I think Yule will share some great data that Menstrual Hygiene Day helped to do that, and you all helped to do that. So from that problem, there's action needed. There's action needed during the pandemic, which is really to ensure that menstrual health is addressed across different sectors. And what is immediately actionable, and we heard already today, is providing menstrual products to those who need, and ensuring wash facilities. Also moving to other forms of communication when we can't get together physically. And that also is the same case for Menstrual Hygiene Day. The last years, the big portion was always events in the communities, on the ground, with education and awareness. This year, our partners have turned to online events, have turned to Twitter chat, have turned to webinars. We're hosting the MH studio, so it's a really big creativity to still get the message and awareness out there. But we're also pretty clear there's a time beyond the pandemic, because it will eventually pass. And if we are prepared now, we can mitigate some of the problems, but we really need to look beyond. And the echo was very loud and clear today that it's still, and it is always, time to address menstrual health and hygiene. And in order to do that, we need sustained and very likely increased and improved investment in the issue. We heard that today, and even particularly that when the crisis subsides. And to fulfill the dream that we set out till 2013, or in Canada in 5 years. So the infographic is on our website. Download it, share it, even beyond Menstrual Hygiene Day, because I think that's important.
I think our team told us recently that from all the content on the website, there is nothing that is more often downloaded than the COVID-19 infographic at this
because
moment.
it's on the graphic is on point, but that's actually what everybody talks about and gets also into the media if you have the right arguments. So turning over is a bit hard to cut now, but I think. I wanted to also give really representation to Latin and Southern Americas. We don't hear so much about it. I think it's also a language barrier issue. I don't speak Spanish, for example. But we tried our best to include them, and therefore we feature now an interview with Nilvia Gonzalez. She's the country director of Days for Girls in Guatemala. She is helped by Michelle Woods, who is the operation manager for Days for Girls, which you hear, who's helping with the translation. And we pre-recorded the video because of those technical issues a day before, and I want to show you now the video. Enjoy it. My next interview is Nilvia Gonzalez. She is the country director for Days for Girls in Guatemala, a country that we really seldom hear about and also talk about. And therefore, I'm really grateful. With her, we also have Michelle Wood. She is the operations manager for Days for Girls, and she helps us with the translation. So, hola!
Hola!
Hola! Wonderful. So I'm going to ask some questions, and Michelle is going to help with the translation. So my first question is, what are the key challenges in Guatemala around menstrual health and hygiene?
Nilvia, ¿qué son los desafíos grandes acerca de la gestión menstrual en Guatemala?
Muchas gracias por la pregunta. Nuestros desafíos actualmente es de que no tenemos un programa para las niñas, para las madres en edad menstrual, para poder pasar en medio de esta situación de pandemia su periodo menstrual. No hay un programa, no hay información, mucho menos recursos.
Thank you very much. Our main challenge is that there's not a program for the mothers and for the girls to manage their menstruation, especially during this pandemic. Just the program isn't there and the resources aren't there for them to help them through this with their menstruation.
Actualmente el gobierno tiene 10 programas para responder a la pandemia, pero ninguno es enfocado a la salud menstrual o salud reproductiva.
Actually, the government does have some programs to respond to the pandemic, but unfortunately, none of them is geared towards addressing menstruation or reproductive health during the pandemic.
And what kind of negative consequences has she seen? Sorry, it's a new question.
¿Qué clases de consecuencias negativas has visto porque no hay estos programas que el gobierno puede ofrecer?
Bueno, ha sido un problema de muchos años las uniones o matrimonios en las niñas de muy temprana edad. Eso es uno.
One of them is the unions or marriages of girls at a very young age. That's something that's one.
Otro es que los embarazos a temprana edad también es un resultado de la falta de información y falta de educación en la edad correcta.
Also, early pregnancy has been the result because of the lack of education and knowledge.
Y por último, puedo mencionar que las niñas no terminan sus estudios por la falta de información o porque hay un embarazo muy temprano, y las niñas que están casadas a temprana edad suelen vivir más en la pobreza.
And lastly, I'd like to say that because of the lack of information, girls will also stop going to school and continuing in their education, and also because of these early, when they get married earlier or at a young age, then it does perpetuate poverty as well.
Thank you for that answer. And I mean, are there organizations and the government who are addressing those issues in Guatemala?
¿Hay organizaciones, incluido el gobierno, que está abordando el problema?
Lamentablemente no tenemos una iniciativa o un programa de parte del gobierno. En Guatemala hay organizaciones sociales, pero no tienen una figura legal como Days for Girls.
Unfortunately, there's not an initiative or a program that the government's offering. There are other social groups that are creating that advocate, but there isn't an organization like Days for Girls in Guatemala. The good position or the good thing about Days for Girls in Guatemala is that there's a legal formation, so they that we are an organization or that in the government is registered with the government. That's a positive thing for Days for Girls.
Yeah, and it seems to be important. And what kind of progress have you done as Days for Girls in the last past years to address the issue of lack of menstrual health and hygiene?
¿Qué clases de programas Days for Girls ha sido en el pasado para hablar acerca de la gestión menstrual?
Tenemos activo el programa en Guatemala de embajadoras de la salud de la mujer. Abordamos temas sobre la salud, la sexualidad, el periodo menstrual y productos para la menstruación en escuelas públicas, orfanatos y comunidades en general.
We do have a program, Ambassadors of Women's Health, that advocates in schools and orphanages and other groups and communities that teaches about menstrual hygiene, menstrual management, about sexual reproduction, and this is a way that we've been able to advocate and reach the community.
También esta semana estuvimos dando un servicio comunitario a varias comunidades, visitamos casa en casa y donamos alrededor de 250 kits para poder hablar sobre la educación menstrual y cómo en medio de la pandemia podemos ayudar a las niñas con este recurso.
Just this last week, we were able to have a distribution initiative where we went to communities and donated around 200 menstrual hygiene kits. And we were able to go door to door and to talk about how to manage your menstruation, especially during the pandemic, and offer these sustainable Days for Girls kits.
Oh, wonderful. I think you probably had a very, very positive response, and lots of thanks for that. And what are your plans for the future, for the next 1 or 2 years? What are the challenges that you want to address?
Gracias para hacer esa distribución de los Days for Girls kits. ¿Y qué son tus planes para... Ina, can you repeat that question, please? I'm sorry.
I muted. Okay. And also Nilvia dropped off. 1 second. Okay. What are then, there are so many challenges, but what are then the areas that you would like to address in the next years to come?
Hay muchos desafíos. ¿Y qué son las áreas que quieres enfocar en el futuro?
Okay. Estamos nosotros trabajando de cerca con el Ministerio de Educación, teniendo conversaciones muy positivas sobre aceptar nuestro contenido dentro del currículo nacional de educación.
We're having very successful talks with the Ministry of Education regarding our curriculum and our context of regarding the sexual health and reproduction and menstrual health education.
También es importante para nosotros intervenir las escuelas desde los 10 años y también en educación secundaria para complementar los conocimientos de las niñas y que ellas se enfrenten el futuro con mucha más información que estos años.
Also, we are focusing on starting with the education with girls that are 10 years old and then continuing
que romper mucho tabú sobre estos productos, pero estamos listos para hacerlo.
We're also offering the Days for Girls kit as a sustainable choice, and also menstrual cups. There's a lot of work to break this taboo, but we are ready to do it, and we're ready for the challenge.
That's almost great closing words, Nilvia, but I still want also hear from you. What is your message to the global movement watching today from Guatemala?
Esas son perfectas palabras para final palabras, pero quiero saber qué es tu mensaje, qué son tus palabras que quieres la comunidad global para saber.
Abrir la mente de las niñas es empoderarlas, y si las niñas entienden y cambian su mente acerca de la educación menstrual, su vida va a cambiar y su comunidad también va a progresar.
To open the mind of a girl is to empower her, and if you change her mind, you're going to change her community and her world.
Wow, that was really inspiring. Thank you. No, I really agree. And that's what we're all working, no matter if you're in Germany, if we're in the US, or in Guatemala, or from everywhere around the world where we heard people do. So thank you very much. Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti, Lina.
And I wish you a good rest of the Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Adiós.
So that was an exciting video from Guatemala. Wonderful. Our next guest in the line is Ivanette Bonilla. Ivanette is the Global Senior Communication Leader for the Always brand at Procter & Gamble. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day, Ivanette, and welcome to Studio MH Day.
Thank you. Happy Menstrual Day.
Welcome, welcome. Ivanette, we're in the America session, and P&G and Always joined the MHD movement 4 years ago. And since then, I understand you significantly increased your efforts to tackle period poverty and stigma, also in the Americas. Can you tell us a bit more about your work specifically in the region?
Absolutely. So first of all, I have to say that it's been amazing to be a part of the MH Day movement. Seeing the growth that this movement has had in the past couple of years is amazing. And it's such a good fit with the purpose of Always and the work that we've been doing for over 30 years. Being able to work together across sectors is what it's going to take to drive real change. So we're excited to be a part of it. In the Americas, I would say Always has been focusing on three things. Primarily puberty and confidence education. We know education and period and menstrual education is key. So for example, in the US specifically, we have our school program where we teach puberty education to more than 2 million students across the 5th grade and the 7th grade. And we include girls and boys because we know it's important for both genders to know what they're both going through. The second area that we've been focusing on in the Americas is also access to period products. As we know, in all parts of the world, women and girls don't have the access they need, and girls many times are missing out on school because they don't have period products. So we really doubled down our efforts, I would say, in the last 2 years. We launched in the US, we launched in Argentina and Mexico as well. And we continue to launch the campaign in all parts of the world, including the Americas, of course. In the US specifically, through the End Period Poverty campaign, we've donated over 32 million pads. And this has helped keep girls in school, keep girls in activities. The other part that we've done is working with influencers and key opinion leaders to share the news, continue to talk about the issue. We partnered with National Geographic to create an episode that talked about period barriers to girls' education. And we took that documentary to Capitol Hill and had conversations with government leaders and decision makers because we need to engage, everyone in the conversation. And then the third area is tackling the stigma, right, that we know that still exists. And through education and through these programs of access, we do that, but also we work on depicting periods accurately through our communication. So that includes our TV ads and making sure that we leverage red liquid in our demonstrations so that we continue to break down those barriers.
Excellent. Yeah, a wide range of interventions. The film you were talking about, that was the Activate series you did with our friends at Global Citizen, right?
Correct.
Yeah, awesome.
Correct.
Cool. And of course, you've also been active around MHD this year. Can you tell us a little bit what you did in the US around MHD?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that at Always, we've been super busy the last couple months. Obviously, we've really focused on helping through the COVID crisis and making sure that everyone that needs period products can have them, whether it's making sure that our plants were running 24/7, making sure that we could keep the product stocked in retailers, but also working with our charity partners to donate to the people in need, as we know that the need has increased. And that's been consistent in the US and in Latin America as well. So with our partners in the US, Feeding America and Matthew 25 and Period, and then in Latin America, we've worked with United Way and the Red Cross and World Vision as well to make donations to people that need products.
Awesome.
And then additionally, with the school closings and the closures that have been driven by COVID, we've also made sure that we have tools digitally so that kids and caretakers can also find the information they need, because many kids rely on schools to get puberty education and menstrual education. So we want to make sure that everyone has the tools they need to support, girls through this phase. As we know, many girls are starting their periods, right, through this uncertain time. And so obviously for Menstrual Hygiene Day, we're doubling down our efforts, supporting, the campaign, talking about the work that we're doing, leveraging and the power of the menstruation bracelet. So we're posting it all over social media, on our website. And then we also brought our team together to talk about periods. We're sharing some videos about what it's like to work on a menstrual care brand to continue to tackling those taboos. And it includes women, men, everyone, we need to continue talking about something as normal as periods.
Awesome. Yeah, that's an awesome portfolio of activities. And I'm sure that you already have your plans in the pipeline for the next year. So like when we're looking at MHD 2020, what are you going to tell me then, what you've done in the last year? What's your plans? And maybe you can even kind of like tell us some goals in terms of like targets that you have for the next year?
Yeah, so we're going to keep doing, what we're doing across our three pillars of education, access, and breaking stigmas. So I would say that we're really focused on elevating our puberty education and menstrual education to make sure that we can reach even more girls and boys and caretakers. So if we're reaching 2 million now, we want to continue to grow that in the next year and even more in 10 years. So we're focused on trying to find ways and working with educators on how do we get the information out there to more people. We also want to continue to donate products to those in need, and we're committed over the next year to donate an additional 50 million period products globally. And then we also want to continue to explore ways to how to continue to tackle the stigmas associated with periods, because we know that's such a core part of the issue. And we need to continue to talk about things in order to come to solutions.
Super exciting. One last question, Yvonette.
Sure.
What's your message to the MHD movement?
So my message would be, in order for us to create change, we need to stay focused. We need to be persistent. We need to work together. We can end period stigma. We can end period poverty if we have open conversations so we can work on solutions. And something as normal as a period shouldn't stand in the way of a girl or a woman reaching her full potential. So we need to break the cycle for the next generation, and it's time for action.
It's time for action. We couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Yvonette, for being on the show. Yeah, wonderful. Have a good rest of the day. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow.
I was quite impressed. I mean, we're working with them already since 4 years.
Yeah.
And what I loved, and you already emphasized, it's like also within the organization, they're doing the change also within. And she was, what I really also liked is she was looking at the solutions.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yes, we talk often about problems, but having the mindset to see what are the solutions and to solve that, taking action. It was great from her, and then we also heard from other partners today that are doing solution-driven. But I think because she said Procter & Gamble is so active on social media, again, it's a good transition to Jule. But also that not only Procter & Gamble is active, but many of you are active. So Jule, share some highlight and nuggets.
Well, we can start having a look at Procter & Gamble. So I would like to show you a mix of interesting tweets and social media posts that came up today. So here we have the Menstrual Hygiene Day post from Procter & Gamble. Really nice, taking up the menstruation bracelet as a global symbol for menstruation. Pretty cool. Then we got a tweet by UN Women, which I found quite impressive. It says, on flow, code red, Bloody Mary, girl flu, the curse, lady business, period. Whatever you call it, there's a whole lot to talk about. Let's end the stigma this Menstrual Hygiene Day, and this nice GIF, which it's really impressive. And then we had Women Deliver, who worked with our graphic and tweeted, it's time for action to ensure period education for all, now and after COVID-19. Education about menstruation is critical to enable women and girls to manage their periods safely, hygienically, with confidence, and without shame. Pretty nice to see that they used our graphic, and the graphic by Diana Ieta. Really cool. And then we're pretty happy to see Akshay Kumar tweeting again this year. Last year he also tweeted on Menstrual Hygiene Day, and that's the Padman, yeah. And he also says it's been 2 years since Padman, and I'm glad we managed to push the envelope a little on this taboo subject. This Menstrual Hygiene Day, I hope we move a step closer towards ending period poverty and breaking taboos surrounding menstruation. So pretty cool tweet from Akshay. And then we have, here we also have Always brand, so the brand account on Instagram, who also made an own graphic with our menstruation bracelet, pretty nice. And we have our new partner, Dr. Schnell, who also used, welcome on board, Dr. Schnell, who also used our graphics. So there's a wide range of cool examples. I can show all of them right now, but we will post many of them in the next days.
And we're very excited about things like Akshay Kumar tweeting, because the thing is that he is reaching everybody in India.
Yeah.
He's reaching
everybody.
The general public, he's reaching men, he's reaching boys. And when a role model like Akshay Kumar says, let's talk about periods, it's a normal fact of life, that inspires people to rethink their attitudes.
Yeah.
It's really important that we get these champions from outside our sector.
Yeah. So Akshay, if you see this,
Akshay,
let's talk.
Yeah, do more.
Okay, done.
So it's my turn again, and we have with us Ines Gonsalves. She's the U-Report Advocacy Manager for the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. We had her with us this morning because WAX, that's the abbreviation, and UNICEF together with a bit of support from Ocean United, launched the U-Report, which is a global polling platform. And this year they polled around menstrual health and hygiene globally, especially looking at what does the youth has to say about the implications of the COVID-19 pandemic on menstrual health and hygiene management. So this morning we had her kind of announcing the poll, and we have her with us now to She's coming soon. Okay, so to share some of the preliminary findings that were there. I looked at the screenshot. Did this in Indonesia and the local language. In Uganda this morning they had already, no, in India they had already 14,000 people polling. So this is a really interesting, like this is an easy way to participate because you just use Facebook and Twitter and you get great data in. And UNICEF did that also a few years ago, and this one is now much bigger and gives us very concrete data.
You know what the thing is? With digital, you set it up once. It's a lot of work to set it up once, but once you have the system, it becomes very easy to replicate. It's a little bit like it was so much work to set up Studio MHD now, and now that we're in the third show, it goes more smoothly, and we're already thinking about, maybe we should do that more often because it's actually turning fun, and there's a lot more issues that we actually should discuss.
Yeah,
and could discuss with our partners, and there's so many more partners that we actually could bring into an event like this.
Yeah, and a virtual event, and that's. I really enjoyed so far, and I think it's great to start the session with Ines and then also almost and conclude.
She's there now.
Yeah,
right?
She's there now. 1 second. Ines, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Ina. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm still energetic. Same as with Thorsten and Jule. It's been, I think, 8 hours later now. It's also been a busy day for you, and we're really happy to have you maybe share some of the preliminary results of the U report. Is that possible?
Yes, I've collected the results we have so far, although once again, those are not going to be the final results. We're still expecting more people to join the poll. Everyone can do it during the next week. And if you can, please do it, because the more people we have answering, the better quality we have for the data. And that's obviously what we're looking for. But yes, I brought the results we have so far. Once again, they're not completely solid and robust, but we can share so we can have just an overview and a first glimpse of what it might look like in some days' time.
Should we try with a screenshot? No?
Yeah, we have it.
I can also present them.
You have the graphics.
I have them, and I'm gonna show them, I guess.
Okay, so then please go ahead, tell us some of the preliminary findings.
Okay, so the first question that we're asking girls and young women, and actually women in general, is how easy it's for them to talk about their periods. And it's no surprise that 1 out of 2 people who have answered so far said they can only talk with people that are very close to them, being close family members, friends, or people they just know from very close networks. And 7% actually said that they can talk to no one at all, which is very surprising. That's in a world that we value so much communication, people spend time in social media, and everyone can be vocal about what they need, or at least this is the direction we're moving to. At least 7% say they can talk about something that happens to half of the world every month, and it's a normal and natural process for every women around the world, which is, I think, very surprising. Let's see what the results might look like in 1 week time. The second question we asked was about how is COVID impacting their menstrual hygiene management, and if they're feeling any changes. The majority, around 60%, say that no, actually they just still they feel they manage their own periods in the same way, but 25% said yes. So 1 out of 4 people actually have been impacted at some point in some way by COVID-19, which I think is a figure that makes us think that looking at the world as a global village, 1 out of 4 people that we know or that have answered have been impacted. We asked why and how. What is the thing that has been impacted you the most? And the majority, actually 49%, said it's harder now to get menstrual materials. This being reusable materials, disposable materials, the materials that they've been used to use, and they might have to change the way they do the menstrual hygiene. Also, it highlighted that 20% said it's not easy to find and to have access to pain relief as it was before, which is, I think, it's quite interesting and makes us think what are the channels and what are the ways can we improve access to pain relief. When it comes specifically to access and changes felt by COVID-19 when it comes to menstrual materials, we wanted to focus on this one as it was something that came out of the highlights, and it was somehow expected that there would be changes given that some countries, cities are in lockdown, people can't move as freely and have the same freedom as they used to have before COVID-19. And when you ask specifically what were the changes in accessing menstrual materials, 37%, so almost half of the people who answered, said they actually have less financial means to buy the products that they used to buy, which is 1 out of 2 people answered. And I think this is something that really stands out from the results. The second most voted option was less menstrual materials available. So this means that it might have been a shortage of materials, or they're just they're not the same ones that are used to. And those were the 2 options that make out the majority of the impacts felt by people around the world. Last but not the least, we asked what countries, decision makers, and people in a position of power should do in relation to this, and what should be our call for action when it comes to our next advocacy activities and actions. And the majority, almost 40%, said that countries should provide free menstrual materials. Which is really interesting, is the one that stands out. Second to periods education to everyone, which I think is also something that where ourselves WAGs as a non-formal education movement, it's something that speaks very close to our heart. Third, with 14%, we have safe toilets everywhere, which is something that's not just about having safe and girl-only toilets. In some circumstances, it means everywhere, in public spaces, in private spaces, in schools, in the places that we work, basically everywhere. I think it's a word that really catches our attention here. So this has been the results we have so far. Once again, I invite you and call anyone who's listening to the other side to join. It's very simple. You just have to open your messenger, search for the 2 words You Report Global, which is this platform we're using to collect and amplify young people's voices, and send the 3 letters MHD, which stands for Menstrual Hygiene Day, as we all know, and then just answer the polls and the questions from the poll.
Thank you, Ines, for sharing. Because I presented the infographic a little bit earlier today, and now you provide hard numbers. Because we had already the soft data and we heard about the impact, but now you have really numbers and data that you can put behind. And what you shared about the question, what are the actions? I think this is, and to policymakers, this is so powerful because it comes from the people. And it's, yeah, as you said, it's really encouraging to hear that they're not only asking for products, but also to other aspects. And we should really listen to that, right? Because now we have so many people joining, and it's a huge amount of people who really ask us as a global community to solve that.
This is the power of numbers. They amplify opinions, they amplify concerns, they amplify what people think about it. So it's from our side now to use this data and these numbers to actually push for changes and to call decision makers to act on what people think and what people need.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Ines, and that's what MH Day is all about. Maybe my last really quick question to you is, looking at the EU report and the advocacy that you're doing, what is your message to the global movement watching today?
Speak out, be vocal. I think there's a common thread here about being vocal and being open to talk about periods. It's not just about, obviously it's important to speak out in these platforms and to make yourself heard, but also perhaps the most impact you can have is to talk with your younger cousins, or when you feel there's a moment that your words, your connection, your support might be impactful for someone, do it, and don't be afraid of being brave and bold to do that, because once you do it, you have a butterfly effect. You just don't know where those words will come to. And if you find if there's something for you in being vocal through your report and to this poll, then perfect for us that rely on that data to then shape our advocacy efforts and our programs, and just to make menstrual hygiene management available, accessible, and fair for everyone.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you, Ines. Thank you for short and the butterfly effect. We will take it from here. Thank you, and have a good rest of the day watching the data. And I know tomorrow you still have an exciting day ahead with frequently asked questions to the young people.
Yes. If anyone has any questions, just send the questions through the same platform and we'll be there to answer.
Good. Excellent. Goodbye for now, Ines. Be in touch
Thank
tomorrow.
You. Bye.
Wow. Now I have butterflies in the belly because we're coming to the end. I have the privilege
Is it butterfly or tears in the eyes?
Our very, very, very last interview now, and the honor to be our last guest today falls to Sarah Keener, Senior Social Development Specialist at the World Bank. Sarah, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. And happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Sarah, can you explain us just real quickly, like, why does menstruation matter to the World Bank?
So menstruation matters to the World Bank for a variety of reasons. As I assume that you've been talking about today on Menstrual Hygiene Day, it's the taboos around menstruation, the lack of information can create a sense of shame, and also lack of access to materials for menstruation can create a whole series of effects that are not always visible to general society. And I think today is the day we actually begin to think about this and think about what impact it actually has. It matters to the World Bank in terms of our outcomes on education, as young girls, either because of shame or because of lack of materials and lack of infrastructure, miss school because of their period. It matters particularly to girls and women at a critical stage of their development. If you think about as young girls are just becoming adults, to suddenly have this taboo on top of them really can affect their sense of self-efficacy, which can have impacts later in life, which I think are very important. It matters to health. Lack of access to materials for your period can lead to infection. It matters to boys and men because they also need to be aware of this, so that the kind of cultural taboos and shame around it, they don't also further exacerbate. And ultimately, it matters to the economy. When you think about what impact it has to have this level of not disability, but inability to engage fully, and then to have the level of taboo and shame and sometimes even bullying, that has an impact on the overall economy. And there's also opportunities for entrepreneurship in this. So for the World Bank, it matters to our projects in a whole range of different sectors.
I just made a mistake, I have to say, Sarah, because we wanted to show a short video with from Mari Pangestu before we start the interview, but I messed it up. That was the one glitch we will have in that session. So we're just, it's getting late. So we're just, is there a way that we can just kind of like watch that really short video now, because I think it's really powerful. So we'll just kind of like interrupt the conversation now for 30 seconds and roll the video, please.
Good menstrual hygiene enables women and girls to reach their full potential. So investing in good menstrual hygiene management is about investing in human capital. So it's now time to increase our investment in MHM for economic development.
It's a really, really powerful message that we already amplified last year, which is about really that investing in good menstrual hygiene management is critical to building a nation's human capital over time, so that in the end, menstrual hygiene management really is critical to economic development. And I think it's one of those messages that are really, really important when we talk to ministers of finance, when we talk to those that can actually make the investments that we need in the end to create a world where periods are normal and where no woman and no girl is held back because she menstruates. And the World Bank in the last years has I understand, done a lot more in terms of like programming, in terms of MHM. Can you give us a few examples, Sarah, please, of projects that the World Bank has been undertaken?
Absolutely. So I think the good news is that the level of integration of these aspects into core operations at the World Bank has increased. So in the water sector alone in FY20, we had 6 operations that actually integrated key aspects of menstrual hygiene management. Just a couple of examples. In Tajikistan, a rural water supply and sanitation project has integrated support to address female absenteeism by financing female-friendly sanitation facilities in schools, but also focusing on social and behavior change and the types of complementary soft interventions that really get to this issue of stigma. It's not just the infrastructure alone. It's the whole package of services. We also have an urban sanitation project in Mozambique, which is similarly combining approaches to integrate female-friendly public sanitation facilities into schools and markets, together with soft approaches. And another project in Tanzania, the Rural Water Supply and Sanitation Project, that is partnering with several local and international organizations to provide training to teachers on MHM and to provide friendly infrastructure. There's other projects under preparation, a project we have in Bangladesh, which is focusing on female entrepreneurship around menstrual hygiene management, which I think is extremely important, including under COVID. So there's a range of different things that the World Bank is beginning to do in core operations. In addition to that, we have developed a package that is available to our staff and to others with useful tools to how to integrate menstrual hygiene management into your project. And I think I'll stop there because you might have other questions. There's other things that we're doing.
Excellent. We had an interview with Julia Lehmann from BMZ earlier today, who also mentioned a new project that you're doing together on the Gender Innovation Lab program that addresses menstrual hygiene management in Niger. Very interesting. Can you share briefly what are then your plans for the next year from now till MHD 2021? Any new programs that are coming up? Any maybe even targets that you already have identified?
So one of the things we've done in the last year is really to ramp up the type of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approaches. We have started together with the gender group, the global health group, the GP for global health, global practice for health, global practice for education, and the global practice focusing on private sector development, a review of our portfolio to see where are there opportunities to really begin to mesh these approaches. And I think that's something that is a bit new this year, that we're going to be scaling up, and I think we'll probably produce good results. We may also be looking more at we have been looking at the research side, but I think that's going to continue. We expect that's going to produce some results this year. So those are two very, very important things, I think.
Excellent. And now to wrap it up, one sentence. What is your message to the global Menstrual Hygiene Day movement?
I think the message is we have a critical opportunity here, and don't underestimate the impact that opportunity can give. This is something that has for a long time remained invisible, but now is our chance to really ramp it up. And I think in light of the environment we have with COVID, there are also opportunities to mainstream this and integrate it. So I know that was longer than one sentence, but I think that's our main message.
Wonderful, because you just gave me a wonderful connect to what I was planning to say in the resume. So thank you so much, Sarah. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we really appreciate your time and your contribution. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Ciao, Sarah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now almost at the end. I hope you're still with us. We're running a bit over time, but I think those talks were really worth it. Jule.
Yeah.
How are the numbers? But we don't talk about, maybe we still don't talk about budget, but tell us, what are the numbers in social media and media that you have until now?
Yeah. So this morning, I guess I said that there is a delightful development of numbers, but I couldn't imagine what was going to happen today, and the day is not even over. So what you can see here, if we switch to my desktop, yeah, great. This is our social media monitoring dashboard, and as you can see here, we've reached today. We've reached a social reach of 1.1 billion people.
I think Jule is speechless. That's why she's laughing. No, not speechless. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of speechless because that's a huge number. So 1.1 billion people a social reach, which means Facebook posts, Facebook shares, YouTube shares, tweets and retweets, and we have, even though we do this Studio MH Day in times of Corona, we have, and the media is full of COVID-19 topics. We have a news and media reach of 3.69 billion. So some journalists have written about us. So there's not only COVID-19 going on right now. We have total contributions, social contributions, about 99,000. 99,000 total contributions, which means I think so far the day is not over yet, and I guess I don't want to jinx it, but there could be a 100 before the comma, so that's pretty amazing. And I really am kind of speechless because I wouldn't have expected this development. I'm pretty happy. And as Ina said, we have this little funny graph which is kind of a benchmark, and it says if we would have hired an agency to put budget in advertising so that we could gain the same reach. Right now we would have spent $35 million.
We didn't spend that.
Only for the social interaction, not for the news and media reach.
And we didn't spend.
No, we did not.
No.
But it was actually But I mean, we're also.
Thank you all so much for your contributions.
Because you made it happen. You spent time and effort to achieve those numbers, and it didn't spare and really make this happen. I can't believe, because we didn't thought this.
That's the magic of collective impact, because we spent no money on media advertising.
Even though 38% more total contributions than last year without Corona.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
You see what I mean?
I'm really looking forward to kind of like to see kind of like then the final numbers, and when it's all cleaned up, and when we have it in the report, and when the day is gone, and maybe Kanye West or Kim Kardashian or whatever person also still joins us to help us over the threshold. No, but it's really about like collective action and a collective effort, and a movement that creates this kind of like reach and awareness and change. I mean, like also like we talked about that before. The issue of menstruation, MH Day, has been trending in countries around the world on social media, which basically trending always, topic. What does it tell us? It tells us that like young people are talking about the issue like crazy. They are openly discussing it. They are exchanging with each other, and that is like it shows us that social norms are changing. That the issue. The taboo, the stigma is getting diminished, and that really is amazing. And as we, first of all, my next topic here is like an expression of thanks. First of all, thank you to all the partners that have contributed to the session, all the speakers, all the listeners, everybody who has contributed on social media, who has posted, who has activated decision makers, who has helped in other way to support our movement, to make this MH Day as successful as it is. A special thank you goes to our financial supporters without whom MH Day would not be possible at all. Because they support us as the MH Day International Secretariat. They enable us to do things like what we did today. Those are P&G with their brands Always, This Is L, and Whisper, the World Bank Group, the Case for Her, the French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, GIZ and BMZ, Kimberly Clark with their brand Kotex, Welthungerhilfe, Citron Hygiene, World Vision, Merck Family Foundation, and last but not least, Dr. Schnell. Thank you so much for powering our movement and giving us the resources that we need to make change happen. Wow, this day was a hell of a ride. And this campaign this year, and it's still ongoing, because I mean, like, we don't stop on MH Day, it's going on, but to be frank, a few months ago, we had no idea, or maybe even like 2 days ago, we had no idea just how this year's campaign would take off. Because of COVID-19, the media are so basically drowning in like, not drowning, that's the wrong word, but they're so preoccupied like writing about COVID-19 that many other social issues don't really get a lot of space at this moment. And we were concerned that the same would happen to menstruation, and it didn't. Yeah. It didn't. It really didn't. So much focus on the pandemic, including in the media, and MHD partners unable to organize events, on the ground events and activities like in the previous years, which they were really so good at and so great at. We really couldn't tell like how much of a bang this campaign would develop this year, how much traction we would get. But now seeing the preliminary numbers, it's absolutely safe to say that the MHD movement is not just alive and kicking, we're continuing to grow despite the pandemic. And that's really, to me, that's a really, really powerful story. I mean, I think the issue of menstruation is having its time. It's one of those social issues that at some point of time are ripe to be sorted out. At some point, it's a big word and it's a big issue, but at some point, we had other social issues, like some time ago in the past, we thought that it was okay not to let women vote. And at some point, that changed pretty quickly then, because like a shift turned, and we paid attention to that, and it's something that seems absurd now. A few hundred years ago, we thought that it was a good idea to give our children beer for breakfast in the Middle Ages in Europe.
Really?
But I mean, I think really like the time has come for menstruation to become normalized, for the period taboo and period stigma to be broken. And we are now giving ourselves the opportunity to end period stigma and period poverty by 2030. Now we need to take that opportunity. We have 10 years. We have the technical solutions. We have the commitment. We have organizations ready to take their programming to scale. Now we really need to mobilize the resources to make it real. Because it's our generation, we have the responsibility. If 10 years from now, we still are here and we need 6 hours of programming or more to discuss the issue, we have failed. So it's time for action. It really is time for action to sort this now and to step on the accelerator. And before we leave, a few words, and then I say thank you to a couple of people, if you don't mind.
Actually, I wanted to really say it's almost time to end the program. And we had 3 amazing sessions with, as turned out, really diverse, inspiring, igniting talks from our guests today. And I hope you also enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed talking to you, Thorsten. I enjoyed getting all the highlights from you, Jule. And same here. And I want to also, again, express my gratitude to the speakers. And I think you will express your...
Some more thanks.
Some more thanks. But before I say then the final goodbye.
thanks to you, Ina, for first time as a TV moderator. What a brilliant show. Jule, thank you so much. Amazing. From the Wash United team, everybody involved, Hannah, Sandra, Pragya, Sarah, Suzanne, Mark, and then one person, Søren, our puppet master, our creative director who kept all the strings together when it looked like we were losing them.
Yeah.
Søren, thank you so much.
Yes.
We would have gone down like a stone in the water without you. A big, big thank you to Thomas Kolb, our amazing graphic designer who is, wow, just like no words for him. The artists who did the illustrations for this year's campaign, Laura, Diana, Daniela, Alexandra, you worked for us on super crazy tight deadlines for special tariffs that you normally don't work for because you believed in the cause. Thank you so much. I hope we made you proud of like what you delivered to this initiative, and if you see like what's happening around the world, like your work really is making an impact here. Last but not least, to you, the crew here in the studio, who've borne with us, who've shepherded us through this crazy kind of like life experiment. Thank you so much, Gunnar, Mia, and everybody here in the team at Bear Film. You did an amazing job. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And with that, I now have to say, I'm getting actually emotional.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
And see you soon, maybe next year to Studio MH Day. And
Happy MH Day.
Happy MH Day. It's time for action. Goodbye.
Ciao, ciao.